overall impression of your roster? Your team had a good non-conference schedule this year. Started off rough in conference play. They seem to get acts together, winning the games against South Carolina and winning against Florida. So what's your overall impression of your roster as you guys go forward through conference play right now?
Well, I think that the more experience that we get these young guys, the better. And James Siakam is certainly playing, the best basketball of his career right now. And when you add him to Damian and Riley, what they've been able to do, and, Riley just won his third Freshman of the Week award in the SEC. So, when we can combine those three guys and augment them with guys like Luke Cornett and others, Wade Baldwin, Jeff Roberson, as we get all those guys playing better and playing well at the same time, obviously that bodes well for us going forward. But I think the big thing is that we had a tough January. We've come out of it. We won a couple games now here in February, and we're just excited about winning and hoping to try to keep that going.
And Coach, I'd be interested to get your thoughts on Saturday's game against South Carolina and your team's effort playing hard, coming back from a 41-29 deficit and going on an 18-0 run. And that turned that game around in your favor. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I think that, basketball is played one possession at a time, and we like to say 1 4-minute war at a time. And so we just really, the only reason that we were in a hole was because we couldn't make shots. South Carolina plays good defense, but we had a number of open shots from three that we just weren't making. Riley couldn't make them, Matt couldn't make them, Luke wasn't making them. And the only difference, because when you looked at the stats, now we did do a great job the last 7 or 8 minutes defensively in the game, but the thing that really got everything going was Riley jumping up and making back-to-back threes, and then Luke made one, and so we were kind of off to the races then. But we had played well on the boards. We had played well defensively. We had taken care of the ball. We had done a lot of good things in that game, even though we were behind by 10 or 12 points. But we just hadn't made any shots. And then we started making shots. The game really turned in our favor.
And, Coach, a player you mentioned in our first portion of the interview was James Siakam. His play has risen over the past few games and giving your team energy offensively and defensively. What has his presence meant to the team with his leadership and his play on and off the floor with you guys, a young team this year?
Well, James has been what James always is. James Siakam is as fine a human being as you'll ever meet in your lifetime. He has the kindest heart and the best spirit, and he's just a wonderful, wonderful person. And so when you combine who he is as a human being, and then you put that in conjunction with he plays harder than anybody on our team. He gives great effort. He has a very positive attitude. He doesn't care whether he starts or comes off the bench. And I think his example has been a great form of leadership for our team and for our players. Now, lately, he's been more vocal and trying to get guys to understand what they need to be doing, what they don't need to be doing, etc. But James has just been awesome with the younger guys on our team. And honestly, Shelby and Josh have too. They just haven't gotten to play as much as James, and they haven't had the impact on the game as James has had. But he's been phenomenal. He just, like I said, he's the most unquestioned person on our team in terms of his attitude, his intentions, his heart, his work ethic, how hard he plays. Nobody can say, well, I'm not going to listen to him because he doesn't do this, because James does everything that you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, and therefore that gives him all the credibility that he needs to be a great leader.
Now, looking ahead, Coach, you got 2 big games coming up this week with the in-state rival coming into Memorial, and you have a trip to Alabama on the weekend. Without giving away too much, what have you seen from Tennessee on the film, and what do you think the key to that game will be in order for you to have success there?
Well, I think that Tennessee is very, very well coached. They play really hard. They execute their system very well. Like most of the teams in our league, they've got some limitations, and they do a good job of playing around their limitations, and which is what we all try to do. We have limitations, and we try to play around them the same. And so Donnie's done a really good job with them, and they, like I said, they play hard, they compete hard, they're at every game, and so it's just going to take a 40-minute effort to win. I mean, they're a team that plays a lot of close games, and we're going to have to play well. They press and play zone, and we're just going to have to execute against the full court press and the half court pressure, and then you got to try to guard Josh Richardson, who's one of the very best players in our league, and Armani Moore's having a great year for them. Hunter's having a great year for them. So, they've just got a lot of guys that are good players. They've got one guy who, again, arguably is as good as anybody in the SEC, and so you're tested in every way. They're a good offensive rebounding team. They get a lot of steals. They do a lot of good things, and so we're just going to have to be ready to play a 40-minute complete game.
And, Coach, you have 8 games left, and so I know you're looking for Riley, Damian, and James to keep up what they're doing. Who are some more players you want to continue to see improvement upon the last 8 games of the season, and also possibly doing well in the SEC tournament, and possibly getting a berth to maybe NIT or NCAA or one of those post-season tournaments? I know you can take it day by day, but are you looking a little bit trying to get the guys better in case that happens for those guys going forward?
Well, I think that the guys that some of the other guys in the rotation that could make a big difference for us would be, Luke Cornett, Wade Baldwin. Jeff Roberson in some ways is sort of who he is. He's going to be very solid defensively. He's going to work his rear off on the boards. He's going to do, all the dirty work and all the hard, tough things. And Matthew Fisher-Davis is a guy that's capable of making shots and scoring points for us, and it would be nice to see him get to be a little bit more consistent. So I would say, those guys that have been playing the most, other than the 3 that you mentioned, are the guys that could have the biggest impact on our team going forward down the stretch run of this season.
Coach, we'd like to discuss the non-conference scheduling with, coaches such as yourself. It's an interest that we have. We're curious about how you go about scheduling your non-conference schedule, what your intent is, and if you try to switch it up from year to year based on, the roster that you have or that you think you're going to have as the course of the season moves upon you.
Well, I think that I've always said you need to schedule to your team, and this year in the non-conference, I felt like we might have overscheduled a little bit, but some of our scheduling parameters now are dictated to us by the SEC conference office. So now we have to get approved for games that we want to play in the non-conference if the RPI of a potential opponent is at a certain level, because they've made a huge emphasis on trying to strengthen our non-conference RPI, and I mean as a league, and so I think that is something that has put a new twist. I mean, college basketball coaches are typically type A personality people who like to be in control and want to be able to control what goes on in their program, and so this has been a little bit of a twist for us in terms of the non-conference schedule, but by and large, if you figure that we're working with, let's just say, 10 or 11 non-conference games to schedule, or we'll say 9 or 10 actually, I would like to have 3 to 4 of the high major variety. This year we had Georgia Tech and we had Rutgers and we had Purdue and we actually thought we would play Virginia because of the tournament that we were in New York. We were hoping to beat Rutgers and get a chance to play Virginia. That didn't work out, but But anyway, I like to play 3 to 4 of those types of games, 3 to 4 type games against maybe that next level of team, and I'm talking about not necessarily just the conference, but the quality of the team, like St. Louis, and I know that people would find this hard to believe, but like Yale, we knew Yale was going to have a very good basketball team this year, and so two or three of those types of games, and then generally 2 or 3 games that you kind of know you're going to win. Now it ends up getting, our schedule ends up getting a little bit skewed because we've always played a heavy dose of the local teams. Whether it's we've played Lipscomb, we've played Tennessee State, we've played just about anybody, Austin Peay. We've played just about anybody around here. Well, we have played anybody that wants to play. Rick Bird and I haven't played as much the last several years because it's just kind of too hard being as good of friends as we are and that sort of thing. But we've played all of the area teams that really want to play, and so that ends up getting put into the equation a little bit for us too. But generally speaking, if we've got 9 or 10 games to schedule in the non-conference portion, we want 3 or 4 at the top level of college basketball, 3 or 4 in the middle, and then 3 or 4 at the end, just depending upon the year and depending upon our team.
And, Coach, speaking to that same vein, Coach, last year when you played Ron Hunter's team, the Georgia State Panthers, that was a great team in the Sun Belt Conference, which was great for you guys at RPI-wise. And I know Ron told me personally you was one of the best teams he had played all year last year. Was you guys? So I know
they had a very good team last year. I think they've got a very good team this year too. But yeah, that's just one of those games that you schedule and it ends up working out really to really help your RPI and that sort of thing. And so, again, Yale would fall into that category this year, but nevertheless, if you're asking from a philosophical standpoint, those are the types of games that we want to schedule. And again, for instance, our team is going to Maui next year, and so we'll be in the Maui tournament, and I think Kansas and Indiana and maybe even UCLA and St. John. I think it's another loaded field, and so it'll just be one of those things to where our season will start off and we'll probably have 2 or 3 games on it that will be high major games, and we don't even know what those are yet. And we got a return trip to Purdue, and so you just kind of have those series and those games, and you keep trying to add those as you go along, but hopefully we can continue to have a very competitive non-conference schedule.
And, Coach, I want you to speak to this. This is something that me and Johnson was very important with coaches and their teams. Talk about how your team interacts with each other, being one, having chemistry with one another. Because a team without chemistry, the team is going nowhere. So how do you go about building team chemistry for us, doing charity work, community work, and getting them to come one and bond together and play good on the court and bleed over to the court when you guys play?
Well, I think that it's important that you not only try to preach togetherness and chemistry, but you have to teach togetherness and chemistry, and you have to teach them what it means and what it looks like. You have to show them what it looks like, and you have to be proactive in it. And I've heard this expression that chemistry is a verb, and I think that kind of gives you some insight as to what we think. Chemistry is something that you work at and that you develop, and it gets daily attention. And I think anytime you have good chemistry amongst your players and staff and amongst your staff, I think that has a chance to make your on-court product be much more effective and much better to watch and much more enjoyable to be around. And fortunately for us, we haven't had as much success on the court. Like I said, we had a rough patch there in January. But our chemistry has been great from player to player, player to coach, coach to player, and coach to coach. The chemistry in our program right now is terrific, and I think that's what's helped us come out of that slide we had in January and helped us get off to a better start in February.